Caitlin Clark jokes about injury return for Fever playoff game versus Dream. Indiana Fever star Caitlin Clark had jokes on September 12. There's nobody who wants Caitlin Clark to be back on the basketball court more than Caitlin Clark herself. The Indiana Fever superstar guard is known for her competitive fire, which is seen through her not being afraid to show her emotions on the court, regardless of whether it's good or bad. And this is one of the many reasons why Clark's gigantic fan base adores her. But the biggest reason why Clark is beloved is owed to what she can do on the basketball court. Whether it's draining three-pointers from logo range, dishing out extraordinary assists to her teammates, or finding some other way to help her team win, Clark is an enigma that the women's basketball community clamors to see compete. This is why it's so frustrating that Clark has only played in 13 games during this 2025 WNBA season and won't be competing in the postseason, which starts for the Fever when they face the Atlanta Dream in the first round on September 14. Caitlin Clark jokingly teases return for injury for Fever playoff game. People often turn to comedy in the wake of facing upsetting news or a bleak reality. And this is what Clark seemed to do at one point during Fever teammate Sydney Colson's Instagram Live on September 12. As the live session was winding down, Clark went off-screen and looked to be heading back to her hotel. This prompted one of her Fever teammates, who was also off-screen, to say, "Rest up. I will. I got a big game I got coming up," Clark then responded, per an ex-post from @JojoHazy. Colson then began laughing and said, "Girl." On Sunday, Clark then added, "Oh shoot, did they just hear that I'm playing? Wait, you're playing? They heard you say you're playing," Aaliyah Boston then said to Clark, seemingly being in on the joke. Unfortunately, this is clearly just a joke, and Clark won't be playing during the Fever's playoff game on Sunday, nor any other postseason contest they have this season. But it's good to see that she's able to make comedic light of a situation that she has surely had to reckon with over the past week or so, ever since she announced that her 2025 WNBA season was over. Indiana will have to try to match up against a tough Dream team without their best player, which is why most believe Atlanta will be able to emerge victorious during this first-round series. The Indiana Fever had just finished their morning shoot-around in downtown Atlanta when a ripple of laughter broke out from one end of the practice court. Cameras swiveled, reporters leaned forward, and teammates paused mid-drill. The source, as usual, was Caitlin Clark, crutches tucked under her arm, a mischievous grin plastered across her face. "I told Coach," Clark said, eyes sparkling, "if I tape up both ankles, wear 3 knee sleeves and let List carry me down the court, I could give you at least 5 minutes tonight. Maybe hit one logo 3. That should be enough, right?" The Fever locker room burst out laughing, and even head coach Christy Sides couldn't help but smirk. Clark's injury had sidelined her for the end of the regular season, a crushing blow for the Fever and the WNBA at large. But even in street clothes, she hadn't lost her spark. Her blend of humor, competitiveness, and sheer presence seemed to hang over the team like a protective shield. Humor as a weapon. The Fever's playoff matchup against the Atlanta Dream was steeped in tension. Indiana had clawed its way into the postseason for the first time in nearly a decade, fueled by Clark's meteoric rookie campaign. But now, with their star confined to the sideline, the burden fell on veterans like Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston to carry the scoring load. Instead of sulking about her absence, Clark chose levity. Reporters noted that in pre-game warm-ups she mimed checking herself in at the scorer's table, waving to imaginary refs. At one point she even borrowed a trainer's whistle and blew it dramatically, yelling, "Technical foul on Atlanta for not letting me play." The crowd that had gathered for early entry laughed and cheered. Clark waved, bowed, and sat back down. "Honestly," Boston said later, shaking her head, "she's the only person I know who can be hurt and still get a standing ovation before the game even starts." The return that wasn't. The Fever knew Clark wasn't returning tonight. The medical staff had been clear, her body needed time. But the whispers kept floating anyway. What if she made a surprise cameo? What if the Fever were down 3 with seconds left, and she limped onto the court like Willis Reed in the '70 NBA Finals? Clark herself fueled the speculation, tongue firmly in cheek. "I'm just saying," she quipped during an interview with ESPN's Holly Rowe, If the game's on the line and coach calls my number, don't be shocked if you see me hobbling out there like some kind of basketball pirate. She winked and social media exploded. Basketball pirate trended within the hour. Fans photoshopped her in an eye patch, a wooden leg, and a Fever jersey, launching a wave of memes that blurred the line between comedy and prophecy. Psychological warfare. But Clark's joking wasn't just for fun. Behind the humor lay a tactical edge. She knew Atlanta had spent weeks preparing to face her, doubling her off screens, extending their zone to the logo, reshuffling matchups. By keeping her name alive in the pregame narrative, she forced the Dream to account for her presence, however remote. Atlanta guard Ryan Howard admitted as much when asked about Clark's sideline antics. "Listen," Howard said with a grin, "when you hear her joking about checking in, you look over your shoulder. Part of you is like, wait, what if she actually does it? That's Caitlin Clark. She doesn't need both legs to hit a 30-footer. The Fever players picked up on the psychological play too. They fed off Clark's energy, joking right alongside her. Kelsey Mitchell pretended to wheel Clark onto the court in a rolling chair during warm-ups. Nalissa Smith posted a TikTok captioned, "Breaking news, Caitlin cleared for half-speed fast breaks." The laughter loosened the tension, turning nerves into momentum. The game within the game. As the playoff opener tipped off, Clark was in full cheerleader mode. Dressed in a crisp Fever hoodie, she clapped, shouted, and even scribbled mock play calls on a whiteboard behind the bench. At one point, she held up a sign she had drawn in Sharpie. "Just shoot from the logo. Trust me." Fans roared every time the cameras panned to her. When Aaliyah Boston blocked a shot in the second quarter, Clark leapt up so quickly she nearly dropped her crutches. By halftime, the Fever trailed by 2, and the buzz in the arena wasn't about Clark's absence, it was about her presence. "She's got this way of keeping us loose," Mitchell explained. "We're out here in a hostile building, first playoff game in years, and instead of being tight, we're laughing with her on the bench. That matters." A joke with an edge. Of course, humor carries undertones. Behind Clark's jokes was the sting of reality. She wanted nothing more than to be on the floor. When asked post-game if it was difficult to watch, she admitted, "It's tough for sure. You dream of moments like this. But if I can't help on the court, I'll help however I can, even if that means being the team comedian." The Fever ended up stealing the opener, a gritty 84-80 win that silenced Atlanta's crowd.